Dude, you need to come to my house. I have so many bees up here right now.
I don't want your bees. I'm not looking for an apiarist.
A what?
That's a guy who handles bees, an apiarist.
I thought it was called a bee handler.
I mean, if you want to be a plebeian about it, and like
an apiarist?
Apiarist, Apiarist. It's a very cumbersome word.
Are you sure that's not a person who handles apes?
What's up, everybody? Today is April 7th, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Palashi, joined by the gross one himself, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us, or maybe even love us, you can find us over at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, or feedback, please send it to us over at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm real gross, my friend.
What is that?
Turning in what?
What is that?
What is real gross?
Yeah.
I'm just disgusting. Like, I have lost all track of time. I forgot what day it was today. I don't remember the last time I showered. I haven't shaved in a month anywhere.
Ooh.
I look like Tom Hanks from Castaway. I renamed my son Wilson.
How does he like that?
He doesn't talk much.
Oh.
It's also plaid and circular and spherical.
Interesting.
How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Turns out work was the only thing that kept me putting deodorant on every day.
Wow.
So I stink a lot more than I used to. And I don't know why. I can't remember to put deodorant on. But there we are. So you're not the only gross one.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, honestly, I'll be honest with you. And I know we take every opportunity to rip on Greg here, but he is the grossest person I've ever met in my life. And when left to his own devices, there was a period in college where he was engaged to Erin. He was a senior, but she had graduated. And so, like, he just was like, whatever, I'm living in Auburn by myself. He lived like a hoarder.
Gross.
I got to tell you, I went to visit him once, and I think once is probably all I could have handled. And there was a piece of duct tape taped to the wall that was kind of hanging off. And on that piece of duct tape, there was a little baby roach that was stuck to that duct tape. And that little baby roach was dead. Do you know how long it takes for a roach to starve to death?
It's like a week, right?
I think longer than that.
But it's a baby. So probably a little less.
I mean, I say it's a baby. It wasn't a giant cockroach. It was a little roach. How long does it take a roach to starve to death? Let's see.
I'm going to say 6 days.
I'll edit out some of this. I can't find it.
You're the worst Googler ever. Jason thought that Zach Braff was married to Mandy Moore about 10 minutes ago. So
that's true. Anyway, we don't have to talk. This is a gaming podcast. By the way, you were right. It's only a week without water.
It is a gaming podcast. Speaking of gaming podcasts like ours, this one, we had an episode last week and we said a bunch of things, and a few of those things were wrong. So, Jason, please walk us through our corrections.
Okay, Greg, go ahead. If you're still with us after that pretty mean thing I said about you, go ahead and start corrections music right now. Okay, so last week we talked a little bit about the price of games, and specifically I said that the price of games had gone up in Canada when I lived there in 2015 to $75, mostly due to inflation rate. Turns out they're actually they went up even further. They're $80 now. And the conversion rate's pretty close to when I lived there. So it was 0.71 Canadian to $1 US. So despite that, I don't think that will ever go back down. And as it turns out, Australians actually pay $80 to $110 per game I looked into the reasoning behind that. People say exchange rate, people say the advertising and distribution costs, but I couldn't really find a clear-cut answer on that. And then the other thing that we actually got wrong was Karch mentioned that Bravely Default was developed by Tokyo RPG Factory. It's actually developed by Silicon Studio. So I Am Setsuna is one that was Tokyo RPG Factory, right, Karch?
That's right.
Okay. And I think that's all we got wrong last week, so pretty good week. So you can cut corrections. Get right in the news, my friend.
Right in the news. It's a news-heavy week. Today
Yes,
alone dropped a lot of stuff, so we're going to get to that in a sec. Jason's going to lead off, though, with IGN's Summer of Gaming.
Yeah, so we found out today, so we learned a while back that E3 was going to be canceled, like the physical actual event, but today Rebecca Valentine made us aware on GameIndustry.biz that not only is E3 canceled, but they will not hold a digital event. So that's kind of interesting news that we're just finding out today, but earlier this week, or maybe late last week, IGN announced their Summer of Gaming, which is slated for early June. The article says, on their blog post says, IGN is proud to announce our new Summer of Gaming event, a global digital event set to begin this June to bring you the latest news and impressions around upcoming games and the next generation of consoles hardware. So the event will include live broadcasts, on-demand programming, and it seems to be focused mainly on, well, almost entirely on software. I assume we won't get any hardware announcements there, but the developers include 2K, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, Amazon, Google Stadia, Twitter, Devolver Digital, THQ Nordic, and more. Any thoughts on that, Karch?
I'm bummed. Not about this. This is great news. But I'm bummed that the E3 digital event was canceled. I know I wasn't looking forward to it, and I didn't think it was going to be anything fancy. But much like the physical E3, it was an excuse for developers to have to pay attention at the same time and give their information out to the public at the same time. And I know that doesn't benefit them, but I don't really care about them. I care about me. And I like waking up and looking at my phone for a week, morning, noon, and night, and having cool new information to look at. So without this focal point, and I don't think IGN can really... There's a list of names here that's pretty impressive, and a few of those companies have games out right now or coming out very soon. So of course it benefits them to be a part of it, but it's not the full list, and it's going to be a shadow of what E3 normally is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I think when you have to go to the bottom of the barrel to tell us that Amazon, Google Stadia, and Twitter are going to be involved, then you're kind of you're hurting a little bit.
I didn't even hear that the first time. Twitter. Oh my! Is Twitter in gaming?
I swear I copied that right from the article. So I don't know. I don't know if they have. Maybe they're going to have like gaming focused threads or something. I have no idea. I didn't think they were involved in gaming, so I guess we'll find out.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what it is. I mean, event will include live broadcasts, on-demand programming. So yeah, it's going to be very... I'm sure IGN's like, what do we do with ourselves right now? They normally have this huge swath of stuff planned around the other people's things, but you know, they have a general idea of the amount of people they're going to need and the time they're going to need and what they're going to be doing, the kind of shows they're going to really like pump out. And they probably want that same level of engagement and numbers and views, etc., that they expect during that time frame, especially someone as large as IGN. Smaller outfits will probably just do the best that they've been doing, you know, working from home and stuff, but they're going to do everything they can to replicate that bonanza of software announcements. Sure.
I mean, I guess if the news isn't coming to you, you can make the news, so...
That's a tactic we should try sometime.
Let's.
All right. Further in news, Magic the Gathering announced or revealed the Ikoria expansion set. The name was known prior to this release, but they finally started revealing cards and kind of some of the key themes of what's going to be about and the main mechanics that they've introduced or brought back from previous sets. It's about big monsters and lots of them. So a lot of the time in Magic, you kind of have to choose between different playstyles, and some of those playstyles involve giant monsters and huge stats, and some of them don't. In this case, every card practically is going to be some hideously huge, awesome, cool monster. So that's kind of fun because that's the way I like to play. So now I don't have to make a choice because all my cards are going to be giant monsters. And one other fun little tidbit is they did a partnership with whoever's in charge of like the Godzilla IP right now. And a lot of the alternate card art is going to have like actual Godzilla monsters. So you'll have your basic Magic card with whatever it is, but then you'll have Godzilla King of Monsters as well. So if you, that's
and why wouldn't you want that?
And why wouldn't you want that? Well, because it probably costs more to get. But if you really want it, it's there, and you can play Mothra on your Magic board just as easily as you can play some Goblin.
Now, are these physical cards, or is this DLC for that Magic game that you've been playing, that free-to-play one?
The game I play has everything. So I play Magic the Gathering Arena, which is their digital they actually have two digital versions of their main game, and that's one of them. And it matches the same thing as the paper card game, so it's physical and digital.
Oh, okay.
And it's coming out.
Do you know any idea on pricing?
I mean, the way that card packs work, it's hard to say. Like, that's a whole can of worms that we really can't get into right now. It's not a one-time buy. It's not like drop $60 or even $100 and you have the whole set. It's randomized, like, you know, if you went to the drugstore or a Walmart or something and bought a pack of cards, and it's randomized. So,
gotcha.
Yep. But it comes out May 15th, so that'll be fun in, you know, a little over a month. Next up, we have a shadow drop announcement from Sony themselves. The PlayStation 5 controller was announced, and it's got a new name. It is not the DualShock 5. It is the DualSense.
Ooh.
It's a two-toned white and black controller, though definitely skews more on the white side. It has a built-in microphone, and the light bar is now on the face of the controller in thinner strips on either side of the touchpad. But I have to ask, why did they keep the light bar at all?
Yeah, no, this controller begs a lot of different questions on design choices. It's kind of interesting. Just overall, I will say the things that I do like about it is that it seems to be more form-fitting to your hand, kind of closer to the shape of that Xbox Elite controller that I like so much. But with all the Sony things that you love in terms of like the parallel, not offset thumbsticks, and the D-pad looks about the same. So, but I saw online a lot of people complaining about the aesthetic of it. They said that it looks like it was made. It looks like somebody put this in CAD 5 years ago and they were trying to make it look futuristic.
I feel like people were gonna hate the way it looked no matter what if it didn't look like a black DualShock. And I think, okay, the white color is a bit different, and most people don't like a white controller color, and that's fine. They're gonna have more colors eventually.
Sure.
And you can that solution is an easy one and an inevitable one. I, for the most part, like it because for the most part, it's just another DualShock. Like you said, that it's got that rounder shape that looks like it'll fit better in your hands, which is cool. I love a built-in microphone. There was a lot of stuff on the trigger buttons and the way that they use haptic feedback. I'm interested. That's definitely going to be a how does it feel thing. So I won't even really, try to get into what that might be.
Yeah, the one thing that they did say is like you can feel the tension of your actions. So like when you're drawing a bow, it kind of, you can feel that change in tension as you draw the bow back. So like you said, I think it will be more of like, okay, that's fine and dandy, but how are you going to implement it, and what developers are really going to take advantage of it? Because that's a feature that will be unique to this controller. And I imagine it being a lot like the touch bar last gen, where it's like, okay, people used it for some of those launch titles and then we never really heard from it again.
Speaking of the touch bar, it's back. And that's fine. I don't mind it. I always liked having a nice big fat button on there. I wish people would utilize it more. I remember The Witcher was one where you could just open up your map immediately by like swiping up on it. And I feel
that was
like
really nice.
How hard would it be to just do shortcuts like that? In a lot of games that have menus and stuff, like even God of War, which was a Sony made game, first party thing, I don't think it utilized anything about the touchpad that actually had like a swipe or touch motion on it. It was just another button, which is fine. If it's just going to be another button, that's cool too. But get rid of that light bar. Get it off of my control. I don't want it.
I don't really think it helps immersion or anything like that. I don't really know what it's for.
Now it's going to be in my face. Previously,
it's going to be pointed right at your face.
Exactly. It used to be on the front of the controller, pointed at the TV, and now the light bar is going to be shining at my eyes in the middle of a dark night. I don't like that.
They haven't shown, so I guess they did show like one front shot of this thing. What's interesting to me is, for one thing that's to note is that it looks like it's USB-C, so that's really nice.
Oh, it did? I didn't notice.
Yeah, so it does look like it's USB-C, but the one other thing is it doesn't really look like the light's super visible from the front like you just mentioned. So I do wonder how this will integrate with PSVR, because PSVR relies on that light for tracking.
Interesting.
So I do wonder about that. I wonder if this is any indication that the next gen PSVR might use a different tracking solution. That said, I can't remember, have they announced any sort of compatibility with PS5 and PSVR?
We'll need to look that up another time, but I want to say yes. I
want to say yes too. Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting to speculate on that based on the design of the controller. But overall, I mean, it looks nice. It looks comfortable. If you don't love the color scheme, like Karch said, there's going to be other colors, at some point. So
were the buttons colored? I don't think they were.
They are not. They're white.
That's really weird. Okay, that's kind of a big thing for me. Like aesthetic wise. Like obviously at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, but it's like that's a classic thing. The pink square, the green triangle, the red circle, and the blue X.
Right, and they're all gray on this.
It's stupid that they should really fix that before they go to prod with it, if they can, or if there's any like wiggle room on the design of this, they should really put that in there, because I don't think it would clash. And it might go a long way, at least with some people who are complaining about it.
I think it'd be cool to have a classic colored one, like the gray, like kind of the PS1,
like the original PS1.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It would be cool. So yeah, but anyway, go to the PlayStation blog and see that if you want more information or better high resolution photos than just us describing it. But
yeah,
overall,
I'm pleased with the new shape. I think it's going to be a nice change from what the DualShock was.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm getting a PS5, and that's the controller it's going to come with, so I'm going to have to get used to it one way or another. All right, so on the other side of things, Xbox made some waves today as well. This was not a shadow drop. We knew this was coming. They brought back Inside Xbox and did a little streamy deal with some of their big hitters. Phil Spencer came out, or didn't come out anywhere. He was sitting in his home in his office, looking real cash with some sweater on from probably the school he went to. I wasn't paying close attention, but
I think it was Washington or Washington State.
It did say Washington. I just didn't know what that represented aside from the name / place Washington.
Microsoft's based in Seattle.
Are you sure? We're gonna have
Redwood.
We're gonna have to look that up and put it in corrections next week.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we watched it, and
their Redmond campus is in Seattle.
I'm kidding. Of course, that's where they are.
Well, whatever, Karcho. Get out of here.
I will. Straight into our notes about
You always got to reference the dock. He's getting into the dock, ladies and gentlemen, and he's got to open the dock.
The dock is the lifeblood. It's not open.
It's really not opening.
It's there. All right. So,
okay, there you go. Got the dock.
Philly Spencer came out and he gave us the whole, we're going to get through this, but we're not going to talk about what it is, because we don't want to say that word. So they didn't. And then some other fine folk got on, and Obsidian opened up with their game Grounded. Now, apparently this was something that was announced before, but I actually wasn't aware of its existence. So it was kind of cool to see for the first time. In a nutshell, it's a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids survival game. You're this child of some kind, I don't know, 10 to 17-year-old, and you've been shrunk teeny tiny to like smaller than the size of a spider, because a spider was something that was chasing you in the trailer. And you're in some yard in like a house in suburbs. So it's very Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And it's got a huge survival element to it. It looked like it had third and first person interactions, maybe between platforming and combat. It wasn't quite clear to me. Obsidian, of course, is recently acquired by Xbox in 2019. They are best known for the recent Outer Worlds, which we both loved, Fallout New Vegas, which is also beloved by many, and KOTOR 2, which is, in my opinion, better than KOTOR 1. Did you ever play KOTOR 2, Jason?
Negative. Greg stole the Xbox.
Greg, give it back so we can play. So yeah, your kid shrunk down in the backyard. You can't get big. You're immediately met by a robot who is very energetic and comical, very, very much just a straight up copy of Claptrap from Borderlands. All the Borderlands, exactly. And I wasn't a huge fan of that because I'm not a huge fan of Claptrap. So I thought that was a strange choice to make. What did you feel about that?
I'm going to be honest. I watched this trailer and I just, even based on the art style, I was kind of turned off. And then I saw the premise and I was like, I don't want to play as a little kid. The combat didn't look super interesting and it didn't look like there were any RPG elements. It didn't look like if you think about those games you just mentioned, Outer Worlds, Fallout New Vegas, KOTOR 2, which is Knights of the Old Republic, which is a Star Wars RPG for anyone who listening who doesn't know.
Thank you.
So, in those games, it was really about the world building and the characters that you meet and the story along the way. And in this, really, the only thing you got to see is this little kid running around, shrunk down in a backyard. And the only character he interacted with was this comical robot. So I'm like, that really didn't do it for me. It wasn't drawing me in. It doesn't mean I won't check it out in the future as more information gets released, because I think this is our first look at it. And I didn't. After this live stream, they kind of went and did a deeper dive that I didn't watch. But just on its face, I didn't think there was a lot there for me.
Yeah, so you bring up that there's not a lot there, and they didn't show a lot. So maybe that deep dive has more, and it was a slight discredit for what they showed in that quick trailer, and us not going to watch that. But Obsidian is. The guy even opened the Obsidian representative, whoever he was. He even opens up with we're known for our great stories. I'm like, so there's gonna be one. Obsidian.
I would hope, but I really hope the story's not like, I'm shrunk and I gotta get big, and this machine is that I need to get big is broken, and then that's it. Because that's what the setup was.
I know, but that's not what it's going to be. They do hint at They do hint at a story. There's a quote unquote sinister secret, and there's the kid comes across a base, but it's still teeny tiny. So why is there this high tech sciencey base in the middle of the yard, shrunk down to the same size he is at the moment, or she? That's the only problem I have with it really so far, is that it looks like the main character won't matter. So there's not going to be a lot of the motivation will be hard. But Obsidian is the king of janky looking and sometimes janky running games that you still kind of love anyway, in spite of all that. And I feel yes, the art style was a little rough. Everything seemed rough about it. I think this was a very early look at it still. They said it's coming to Xbox Preview this year. I don't know what that is. Do you know what Xbox Preview is?
No, he mentioned something about the preview's cool because that means that we're going to release part of the game, but the story's not finished. So I don't know what that program is, but it sounds interesting. It's probably just self-explanatory that they're going to release part of the game in a demo version or something. I don't know.
Some sort of pseudo early access kind of thing. But we'll look that up more later. But yeah, I'm not sold on it by any means, but I already have Game Pass, and it's obviously going to come to Game Pass, so it will be no extra sweat to try it out even for a couple hours. So
sure,
we'll see. Next, they moved on to some Xbox Series X hardware details, and it went all over my head except for the ray tracing, which is awesome because everybody loves ray tracing. But Jason, what were your takeaways as a slightly more technical-oriented person?
So a couple of things. One, I thought it was kind of funny for anybody that did watch it that the examples they used to show off ray tracing seemed like they were from that new Minecraft game, or maybe from the old Minecraft game. I couldn't really tell, but it was that really pixely blocky that doesn't have a lot of detail. And I was like, why would you choose this to show off ray tracing? I just thought it was interesting. The other thing is, with the suspend resume feature. So they talked a lot about the hard drive and how quick it's going to be and how that's going to help with the textures and blah, 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 and loading all this stuff. I'm interested to see how much faster the suspend resume feature is, because the PlayStation 4, I'm sure Xbox One has something similar, but the PlayStation 4 has suspend resume, and it's already pretty quick. Like, I already opened my PlayStation, click the game I was playing, and it pops right back up. Maybe with this, you can have multiple applications open at once, and so you can resume back into any game. I'm not really sure. They have this proprietary expansion drive, which I thought was really interesting because a couple episodes ago, you and I were talking when Xbox did their kind of tech drop of all the tech specs. They talked about how they would support external drives, and you and I were like, well, how is that going to work with all these features that rely on the speed of the hard drive if you just have a normal hard drive connected? Well, they did address that. So they have a proprietary expanded drive that you can get that looks kind of like a Bluetooth dongle. It's just this really tiny little USB connector that goes into the slot. But it's actually 1 terabyte in its expansion. And it's designed such that you get the exact same performance as you would with the internal drive. So if you wanted to go in and play games off of that expansion drive, you could do that. Now, in addition to that, they have legacy support for other external drives, and you can certainly store your games on a normal external drive, but you cannot play games off of that drive. So if you were to store like your entire library on this, 10 terabyte external USB drive, you could do that. But before you play the game, you have to reload it onto the internal drive. So,
that sounds cumbersome.
I mean, it does, but if you're somebody like Greg who has a data cap or something like that, and you just wanted to have your whole library on one little thing, you could do that. You just couldn't play from that. So,
right.
Anyway,
it's an alternative. So
that's pretty much all I got out of that.
Yeah, it seemed like more of what we'd already heard. And a lot of stuff kind of crisscrossing with the PS5 tech demo they had. Not tech demo, but tech talk they had a couple weeks ago. And it's just like, okay, at this point, I do not care anymore. I do not care about the inputs. We know that you have, more RAM. We know the graphics card, of course, is as good as you can make it at the price it's going to launch at, whatever that is. And we know that SSD is the future. Great. Super. Shut up about it. Stop talking about your tech. You've already talked about your tech. And then don't show me Minecraft on it. I mean, that's cool, but don't show me Minecraft on it. Show me something else. And I mean, to your point, it doesn't look any better than your PC. You have a good PC. There's that your PC will still be better than the latest consoles when they launch.
Yeah. So so I didn't actually say that out loud, but it's in the doc. They showed this tech demo of Gears 5 running on the new Xbox hardware, but it didn't look really any better than my graphics card or my computer. And my graphics card is from like 2016. It's a GTX 1060 6 gigabyte card, which is, it's about to be 2 generations behind in terms of what NVIDIA's released.
Yeah, so the consoles are usually pretty far behind. I mean, they have a proprietary thing that's technically like, state of the art, but
it's super optimized. Right. And I think at this point, that's all you can expect from the console makers is they're going to put out a box that's $400 to $500. That's super optimized for gaming, and it's going to be as good as they can make it for that price, and that's it. And that's all you're ever going to get. And they're going to try to trick you with these really fancy marketing terms and phrases and the way they pitch it, and they're going to make it look sleek and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a highly optimized PC.
Yep. All right. Moving on. They reminded us that Ori and the Will of the Wisps came out, and it was really good. So if you haven't played it already, you should go play it. I finished it. It's amazing. Excuse me. So go play it. Then they reminded us that Bleeding Edge by Team Ninja? Well, I guess Team Ninja is a thing. It's that multiplayer pseudo MOBA team shooter, never going to play it kind of thing.
That's news to me.
Yeah. State of Decay 2 DLC is also a thing that exists, so be on the lookout for that, I guess. Apex Legends is getting some cool story event, so in addition to the Battle Royale mode, you'll have this other thing that you can probably still do with other people, but it's be more of a focused, streamlined, play against AI kind of thing. And they were talking about skins and stuff. And then they also announced that the duos mode, and I think this is already known. I don't think this was dropped during the stream, but duos mode is permanent now. So originally when Apex Legends dropped, you always had teams of 3. So even if you only had 2 friends, Jason and I were jumping in, we had to have some random person with us, which was technically fine. We weren't going to like be jerks about it and like run off without him or anything, but we weren't talking to him and we just wanted to play with each other. So now that's a thing. I guess a lot of people liked it, so they kept it, and that'll be permanent going forward. Forza Street, which is some kind of Forza offshoot, is coming to Android and iOS because it's already available on PC. If it's coming to Android and iOS, it still must be some kind of mobile-esque type game. And I don't play Forza games, so oh well. And then Minecraft Dungeons is coming out on May 26th. It's Diablo meets Minecraft, which sounds kind of appealing. So I might check it out again. Why not with Game Pass?
That's the only way I would check it out from what I saw of it. But yeah, it's not really my thing.
Nothing is. You were incredibly underwhelmed with this. And mostly, you're a very hard man to impress. And
it's true.
You're cramping my style of let's get excited and play video games, and all you want to do is watch YouTube videos at the same time as your friends.
Well, that was a really cool site.
Yeah, it was. No, don't get me wrong. I was super impressed when I found out about it too.
WatchTogether.com.
Watch Together.
with the number 2, not.
They're not paying us, I promise. Oh, I promise.
Yet.
But yeah, one last thing, the Minecraft Dungeons has like education components, so there'll be like tours and interactive things that were like done, that they got together with NASA, and they made a space thing where you can like tour the International Space Station, except it's all in Minecraft style, so that's kind of cool. Marine biology, math stuff, logic puzzles. So I always like when educational games were your jam as a kid, because any excuse to play a video game, like Zoom beanies and all that kind of stuff. And what was it? The other one, it was like grammar and stuff. Schoolhouse Rock. That's what it was. They had games and stuff too. Math Blaster, etc. But it's really cool when like legitimate game companies make a game that has an educational purpose. Like I know Assassin's Creed did those Egypt tours when which one was that? Assassin's Creed.
Oh, geez.
Origins.
Okay, I was going to say not Odyssey.
I don't know if Odyssey had the educational component, but either way, they had this totally like just, you could walk around the world they had created in ancient Egypt and not actually play the game, but just kind of look at everything. So, and I think it had a couple other like different features that catered to the education component. So
yeah, they did the same thing when like that cathedral burned down. They made it such that you could go walk inside of it.
That cathedral,
I don't remember what it's called.
Notre Dame.
Oh, whatever.
Okay. Game Pass has some news too. Coming to console on April 9th is Journey to the Savage Planet. And also, it will have some brand new DLC. I don't know if that was exclusive. I don't think it was. They probably just announcing it. But I actually never looked into this game. I have no idea what it's about. Have you seen anything about it?
No.
Okay. And we don't have Xbox consoles, so we definitely won't be playing that. Jason, you have a note here about Payday.
Yeah, so they announced some other games. So for PC, for Xbox Game Pass, they have Football Manager 2020, some game called Mistover, which I'd never heard of it, Stranger Things 3, the game, a couple others, and then they had some coming to both, one of the Yakuza games and Humans Fall Flat DLC. But what I had noted here is I was just hoping with this, when I saw that they were going to have an Inside Xbox slated for today, I was hoping that they'd announce parity between console and PC, because they had stated late last year, I think it was November, that they were eventually going to have the same library on both PC and console. But then in addition to that, you would be able to stream it on other devices. And it seems like the disappointing thing with Xbox Game Pass here is they just expanded the beta into, well, that's kind of more of a tie-in to Project xCloud, which is their streaming service, which we've talked about on earlier episodes. But they've expanded the beta, but they haven't gotten the full integration with everything between Xbox Game Pass and Project xCloud. And I was really hoping that's what we'd hear today, because otherwise I don't really know why you have this big. I'm not saying that this was a big event, but like, why have this?
They didn't say it was going to be a big event. Why not have it? It was information to know. It wasn't, it's. I can't stand this idea that because they speak, it has to be like something like incredibly impressive, you know? Like if they don't have anything, like amazing. They had something. There are a few things here, and they don't want the people to forget that they exist as a company, especially since who knows what their plans are in the next few months that they normally would have had, that they had to change versus even going into the later part of the year. But
that's the thing is they obviously rushed to put this together because they had people recorded in their living rooms with like no sound treatment at all.
That's fine. That's how it's going to be, though. You can't expect them to be like one person might. It's going to be too hard.
I think Philip Spencer can afford some sound treatment for his office.
But that's not authentic. It's not authentic. He's not stooping to be the common man if he's got sound treatment and his home studio.
Watch who you're talking about. I got sound treatment.
Yeah, but if Phil Spencer would rather have no sound treatment than have his room look like yours.
I just feel like they made a big deal and they bent over backwards to put this out during the quarantine to tell us what?
They didn't make a big deal about it.
Well, I made a big deal about it.
You did. And that's the problem. Everyone needs to stop raising their expectations because somebody did they need to stream it? No. Did that get our butts in the seat that I would have waited to watch this maybe never if it wasn't streamed. Not that makes a difference, but
I would have watched it never if not for this podcast.
Well, that too, yeah. So, but
anyway, we don't have to talk about that more. It's just I've been waiting 6 months to hear something about Project xCloud, and all I get is, we're going to expand it to 11 territories in Western Europe. And we only have the same 4 games for it. Oh, cool. Thanks. It's just frustrating. Like, when are you going to...
But at the same time, they didn't say they were going to come out with Project xCloud news. Like, where are your expectations coming from, aside from just wanting it?
Well, I think they did say on their blog, didn't they, when they announced this event, that they were going to have Project xCloud updates. I could be making that up.
I don't read blogs, man. That's not a thing I do anymore.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we can talk about the rest of what they said here.
About what?
The last campfire and the next few items.
Oh yeah. Okay, there's a couple cool games near at the end. Atomic Crops was this kind of goofy bullet hell meets Harvest Moon game, which I want to see way more of because I would drop $15. Well, I don't have to drop any money on it, but I would definitely drop $15 on that. And play it like I play any Harvest Moon game / Enter the Gungeon. But it was a super quick trailer, so I'm sure we'll see more about that in the future. But you definitely grew crops, but then the crops came and fought you and turned into giant monsters and again started shooting stuff all over the place. But it looked fun and cute, kind of like an updated version of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which is, a beloved classic. Then a guy from Hello Games came and narrated the very brief trailer for Last Campfire. We saw this in the recent Nintendo Direct Mini. A lot less of it, so we got to see a bit more. Similar feelings there. It's a very story-heavy game. It's very moody. Lots of themes about loss, death, and loneliness, but there's still kind of this cuteness to it, to the characters, to the design of the everything, the atmosphere, and the levels. You play this little character named Ember, and they're lost, and they're trying to find their way, and they're running into a bunch of ruins and dead people and lost stuff, and you're finding these little, what were they called? Hope. I think it was just little lights, and they called it Hope, and that seemed to be reviving people. But it's just a really pretty serene kind of game that looks promising if you like these kind of slow-paced Journey-esque adventures. Journey the game, that is, which I can clearly see a lot of inspiration from. As the game goes, the character picks things up and moves through levels and stuff. There's a narrator, a woman speaking over, kind of telling a story, and then Ember picked up the bag and reached in and found the thing, and it's really whimsical. It's very similar to Bastion, if you ever played that, with the smooth talking narrator over all of the things that you did or didn't do in that game. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't think they put a release date on it though, so we'll see whenever it's coming out.
Yeah, I really dug the art style. I would be willing to check it out on Game Pass.
Yeah, the gameplay seemed to be for the most part, it's going to be, you're going to be walking from like scene to scene, from like screen to screen. That is very small area, and then the only gameplay will pretty much be picking things up and then completing a puzzle, a logic puzzle of some kind. I don't think their goal is to make them super difficult. So if puzzle games turn you off because of how hard they are, I don't think it's going to be that kind of game, but we'll see. For our parents out there, Xbox released a lot of parental controls, which is always cool. So if you've got Xbox stuff, go ahead and check those out. The one thing I did like, there's this co-pilot feature. I don't know if this exists anywhere else and this is just coming to PC or if this is brand new, but it's this neat thing where basically, even though there's a single player, you can have two controllers and then that co-pilot can kind of just take over. So they described it as like your kid is playing, but they're not very good. So instead of you just taking the controller out of their hand, you can just start doing like those weird driver's ed cars where they have two steering wheels. And all of a sudden you're the one jumping over the pit and they're not falling into it for the 4,000th time. So that was really neat because, you know, it's literally the story of my life at some point, playing around with Juliet, and it's just like she couldn't do it. And I just want to get past this one part and let her keep playing, but now I can. So,
well, boom, you might have to buy an Xbox.
Yeah. And then you can play Spotify in the background. So, you know, put the podcast on, this podcast, Never Free to Play, while you're playing whatever Xbox game you want to play. So was that different from the Game Bar updates, or was it the same thing?
You know, it was a little bit confusing because some of the stuff they showed looked like it was Xbox console updates, and then there was like this split for like the Game Bar on Windows 10. And I couldn't really tell, but the stuff that I'm about to talk about seemed like it was more of the Windows 10 portion of it. So they have this Razer and XSplit integration, which had certain game optimization options. A lot of them seem streamer focused. So for instance, so basically when you're playing a game in the Xbox app on your PC, they have some streaming features in their overlay to where you can start and stop your stream. And it also gives you some engagement options for like engaging your audience. But then in addition to that, they have like this game optimization mode that would kill all of the non-gaming related tasks that your computer was performing to try to optimize your computer for gaming. So those were the two kind of big things on the Windows 10 Xbox Game Bar updates. And like I said, it was a little unclear to me watching it if those were features that would be shared with the Xbox or if they were just on the PC. Just the way they talked about them, I felt like it was just on the PC.
Yeah, definitely for the optimization thing, obviously. You're not going to have to cancel anything out.
Yeah, but for the streaming, it may have been both. Again, sorry everybody, but it was just difficult to tell because they kind of flowed right into that discussion.
It wasn't well parsed. It was hard to parse because it wasn't well presented, but all the features are there on one of them or both, and they're all good stuff. So check it out if that matters to you. And then they closed with Sea of Thieves information. They're just updating the game. There's going to be more stuff in it. I've never played it, but there's going to be a new reputation system. So I guess there's these trading companies. There's 4 now. They're going to add a 5th one, and you can schmooze those and gain rep and presumably get stuff. They're going to overhaul the PvP mode. It's going to be more cutthroat. The matches are going to be a little shorter, which I always appreciate. I don't like a long PvP match. That's why I stopped playing MOBAs and stuff, because I don't have 45 minutes to devote to something I'm going to have to quit anyway and then get banned for 3 days because I couldn't finish the match.
Sure.
True story. But I think we should try it out, you know, quote unquote free at this point. And
yeah,
they have cats now, and that's cool. People like
Who doesn't love cats?
I love cats.
I especially like that movie. It's really good.
I hear it's the best.
Yeah, no, this is something that, like, because of the buzz at launch that I kind of wanted to check out because the idea of it seems so neat, but then, and it also seems like people have a lot of fun playing it. But then when I go and look at the actual mechanics what do you actually do for gameplay? I'm like, it looks really MMO-y, and that's not my thing. But since it's on Game Pass, I would be willing to check it out.
What do you mean I haven't looked at it? What kind of MMO like things do you see? Because that's not the impression I've ever got from like a trailer or anything.
Well, maybe it's just the associations that I make, but the animations when maybe this is a bad parallel that I draw, but whenever your actions don't have super impactful consequences and like the animations are a little weird and jank, I just associate that with MMOs for some reason. So like if you go to hit something and the thing that you hit doesn't look like it got hit. Maybe there's just like this like little smoke cloud that puffs over it and then it like takes damage or something like that. Maybe it, I can't remember exactly how they show damage and stuff in this, but like when the physics aren't super tight and it just seems like very cartoony and loose, I just associate that with MMO, and maybe that's wrong on my part.
I hear you. I understand what you're saying now, so I see what you mean. But at the same time, it's like almost anything that has a PvP component and is also first person, which like you play that game in first person. Obviously, you see the other models and stuff when you're like doing battle and whatnot. But like because people can just move around wherever they want, there's no predetermined way to like script those animations. It's always going to look like that, unfortunately. Like I wish it was better, but we're not there yet. That's for sure. But we got to build a pirate ship and make a flag for Never Free to Play.
Sure. Oh, that would be fun.
Would be. I have a flag. No, not a flag. In Animal Crossing, I made bed sheets with our logo. So every night I go to sleep and I cozy in with it. They look like total like 5-year-old bed sheets too because of the colors we use.
Adorable.
It's adorable. But that
put that on Twitter.
I will at some point. Never. It's my private home, Jason. I'm just going to share my private Animal Crossing home with the world. I
need you to. You got to be more open if you're going to be on this thing.
That's true. All right, so that wraps up the admittedly mediocre presentation. I think it was just I keep hoping. I'm like, it's so weird. And I'm going to spiral off into what we talked about earlier about E3 being canceled and other people stepping in. But like, and I know this is hard on everybody, the big companies included, because everybody's at home and it's difficult. But at the same time, you had to have something planned by now. And I know I know these companies love being free of the shackles of E3. I know people run to their defenses like, oh, you shouldn't have to. I don't care. I want to see stuff. Show me stuff. What were you going to show? And I know we're not there yet. We're still 2 months out, basically. But when I see stuff like this, I don't know how to take it. I don't know how to take it as, is this a holdover till we get there to remind us like we're still here and we're going to show you something cool in the future, but here's something not so cool for now? Or is this like, this is all we got? This is the best we can do right now. Like, I don't know which one it is.
Surely that's not true because of how many developers Microsoft acquired last generation, and those of all, I don't know that we know what very many of them are working on.
No.
So I assumed that's what we would find out this E3, and maybe it still is. But in that case, like, why make this big to do about Obsidian's game, and why? Again, I fail to see why this was necessary.
I mean, again, it doesn't really boil down to necessary. It just boils down to marketing. It's like you got to tell people about stuff at some point, and now is a decent time to do so. It's just, what does it mean for later? Like, it looks necessary or unnecessary in context, I guess. In a vacuum, yes, it seems stupid. It seems pointless. Most of this information could have been done in 2 trailers and a blog post. But what comes after will color our, view of what this meant, and other Inside Xboxes going forward, and other PlayStation State of Plays. And then, Nintendo Directs are always great. I always have a great time at Nintendo Directs because I don't feel like, because they've been doing those more, and they do their own thing. But
well, they've taken the pressure off themselves by only coming out and talking when they have something to say. And I think that's why I had this expectation for Inside Xbox, because Nintendo kind of put that in my head of they don't come out and just be like, we got 2 games and like an update to our online system.
That's what people thought. A lot of people thought about that in regards to the Mini, because they don't care about Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered. And then that was their big thing. And then if you didn't like Animal Crossing or Pokemon, they thought that Direct sucked, and like, what? They said the same thing you did. Basically, it's like, well,
you know what? Then my expectations may have been tempered if they called this Mini Inside Xbox or Inside Xbox Mini, or you know what I mean? Like,
should have. You're hungry. You're hungry for Play Anywhere, xCloud, and I understand.
Ah, man, I'm just a corporation. I'm a corporate eating monster right now. Like, I will chew up anything a corporation does right now and spit them out because that's just how I feel. Which leads us to our next and almost final news story. Go ahead, Karch, to let us know what it is.
As I'm sure you all know by now, The Last of Us has been delayed again, but this time indefinitely. And by indefinitely, I mean there's no new release date to go with this delay. There was a little letter they posted on Twitter. I think it was Naughty Dog or Neil Druckmann directly. I can't remember, but Neil Druckmann being like the head honcho at Naughty Dog as far as design and whatnot. But they claim there are a few bugs, but for the most part, it's things, quote unquote, things beyond their control, which again is a fancy way of saying pandemic, because you can't say pandemic and you can't say coronavirus. Otherwise, YouTube will, I don't know what they do, but they hide you or something.
Oh man, are they going to hide us because you said that?
I said it. Corona.
Oh, no.
Corona. So yeah, again, currently no expected release date. Sony also delayed in a similar statement or almost in the same breath, like maybe not this exact release, but like within the same hour of this announcement, they announced that they would also be delaying Iron Man VR.
Oh no!
I know.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I mean, I was fine with them delaying The Last of Us Part 2, but come on. That was going to be game of the year right there.
You want to be Tony Stark?
Yeah, I wanted to. I wanted to be Tony Stark on rails is what I really wanted.
He played this game in a cave with a box of scraps. I love that line. I love that movie. I love that series. We should become an Avengers Endgame podcast where we watch it every week. There is somebody out there. There was a comedian group, and they watched something like every week.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was, what's that movie with Adam Sandler and his dumb friends? Grown Ups or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They watched the sequel, Grown Ups 2, because it was so bad. They watched it once a week, and they had a podcast again, like every week about their most recent watch through.
Oh, wow.
It's the dumbest but greatest idea at the same time. Anyway.
I don't want to do that with Avengers, but okay, keep going.
Back to
So Last of Us 2 is delayed indefinitely. I kind of get it, and I kind of don't. Because like you and I talked about this, but I would say if anything, Final Fantasy VII Remake's going to be more impacted by logistics issues and distribution issues with getting physical copies out, which is what everybody pretty much thinks the motivation behind this is. And yet that game's still coming out, and I'm sure it'll still sell well. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of this delay is.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't. How many of these more are we going to see?
Yeah.
And who's going to be the first person to say, screw it? I'm sorry, everybody who can't get this digitally for one reason or another. And I say, I'm sorry as Sony, but I'm also sorry. Like, that sucks. That, especially this game. And I was listening to another podcast, and they bring up a really good point that The Last of Us especially, and to a degree, Final Fantasy VII, even though that's a remake, so the main beats of the story are known. But The Last of Us 2 is a story-heavy game, and having that in the hands of even 50%, because that's the best you're looking at. You might get a small bump because it's the only way people can play it, but a lot of people won't touch it. They'll just be like, oh, well, I'll wait, or I'll look up a video or whatever. And it could be an artistic vision thing. I don't really see that as like the driving factor because I don't think I would ever let them do that.
Right. And if that were the case, then they wouldn't have delayed Iron Man VR as well.
Precisely. And so it's like, how important is the physical release? And again, I know how important it is. I know it's a huge chunk of the units sold, but just release it physically when you can. And get it to people as you can, and let people play it now when it's ready. Okay, maybe there's a couple bugs and they have to push it back a month, which would only help, well, I would assume anyway, only help people who want it physically. But it's kind of like the opposite thing with Final Fantasy VII, because that game was released early physically in a lot of places like Australia and parts of Europe, because they got their copies and they were like, well, we're going to get it to them whenever. And Square Enix was like, okay, that's fine. We can't really control that. But we can control the digital date, and they weren't budging on it. So like there's a lot of people who've had this game for more than a week who aren't reviewers, who are just regular Joes who got it in the mail or went to a GameStop and did curbside pickup or whatever, whoever store that they were going to, and they've beat the game by now before it even launched digitally. And it's like,
Sure.
well, why don't you just release it digitally?
I honestly understand that more than what they're doing with The Last of Us 2, because I'm sure there's a lot of logistical hoops to jump through to get it out on the store, and they probably already have a lot of things set in motion that time with the release. And so, like, I get that part of it more than what they're doing with The Last of Us Part 2.
We are in this weird period where it's probably way more work and hassle to try to switch the release date that close. Like, if we were a month away, it might be worth considering, okay, well, maybe we'll release it in 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks, but we're not, so it's fine. It's coming Friday, everybody. Don't worry. I'm going to get to play it. You're going to hear my amazing impressions next week.
I'm super psyched.
I can't wait. It's going to be so good. But, yep, no Last of Us, no Iron Man VR, so if you're looking to one and or both of those games, too bad. What do you think's next? What's going to get delayed next?
Oh, geez. I mean, maybe Ghost of Tsushima, because isn't that a June release? And so now you're pushing out The Last of Us, indefinitely. So I would imagine that one's going to get pushed too.
Do you think that's a big enough? Like, again, like at some point, someone's going to have to release digital only.
Well, Sony has made their choice. I don't think at this point they can justify releasing Ghost of Tsushima and not The Last of Us Part 2.
Maybe. That's a bummer though, because I was excited for Ghost of Tsushima, and that's super close. So who knows?
And the thing is if again, and I go back to this, if it weren't about physical releases, why would they have also delayed Iron Man VR?
Yeah, no, I mean that's almost. I can't think of another reason. It's the only reason. I just want them to not care about it.
Oh, I agree, because I mean I have this whole thing of. I really dislike when certain things are withheld because a small subset. I have to be really careful about how I word this, because I have a specific example in mind where it's not necessarily about inequity. It's just about how we view certain people. But it's really frustrating when something gets taken away from the majority because of a small subset.
Yes.
So, like, an example is, we're not supposed to have our phones on the floor at work. Nobody's supposed to have them on the floor. And it's because, really and truly, production's employees aren't supposed to have them on the floor. In my opinion, I just think that's dumb. Like, I think we should trust everyone to be an adult and be professional and do their job and not let the phone be a distraction. But at the same time, like, if their kid is sick and needs to get picked up from school or whatever, they should have that same ability that I have at my desk to have their phone right there. Like, I don't think it's fair. And it's the same thing with this. I was like, I don't think it's fair for that small subset that might not be able to download it day one to take it away from everybody. Anyway, that's my little soapbox. But like I said, I'm a corporate eating machine today.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, it is a completely selfish perspective. We're not actually upset. It's a bummer. We'll be fine. Everybody will be fine.
Everybody's going to be fine as long as you stay in your house.
Stay in your flipping house. Don't flip it while you're in it.
No.
You need to live there.
Right. You'll be exposed to the elements.
You'll want to flip it after, because this market's going to be crazy. Crazy. But yeah, I don't feel bad for Naughty Dog. I feel bad for Sony. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants any of this. But we are where we are, so we have to talk about it in the way that we do.
Sure.
All right, last little bit. This is just for me, really. Adam Rosser over at Games Radar reports, after a little interview he did with some of the people at the company that makes Disco Elysium, that Disco Elysium is coming to Switch. Disco Elysium is a kind of breakout indie hit from last year, won a bunch of awards, BAFTA Indie Game of the Year award kind of thing at the Game Awards. It's kind of like a computer RPG, really heavy on the story and the decision making. But basically you play this cop who had like some kind of drunken night and he doesn't remember what he did, and you pretty much spend the whole game trying to figure out what you did. And there are some pretty hilarious results, because more than any other game, when you say something and you make a choice, whether that's, more stat based or like dialogue based, it really matters, and it reverberates even in that moment or later on. And I'm really excited that I don't have to choose between do I wait for it to come to Switch or play it on PC right now? And it's coming to Switch, so I'll just wait for Switch.
Sweet. How much is that? Because that sounds really cool.
Can't be more than 30. I don't know.
I would split it. It sounds cool. You got me. You hooked me. I didn't want to know about this, but that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty short too, all things considered. So another point in your favor.
Yep.
All right. So that wraps up the very long news section.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yes, you're welcome. Sean, let us know if that was too much, if it was just right. Our little Goldilocks. That's his new nickname.
That's Sean's new nickname?
Do we Papa Bear? You can be Mama Bear.
Wait, why do I have to be Mama? Can I be Baby Bear?
You can be Baby Bear.
All right. I'm cool.
Sean's going to be Goldilocks because he's trying the porridge to figure out what's right.
That makes sense.
There is no Mama Bear. This is a single dad household. I do make Mama's porridge, though, every morning because I miss her so much.
Oh, my gosh.
Right, let's talk about some games we actually played.
All right.
Why don't you start us off since you're the only one who really played anything this week?
I got to tell you, my friend, I went on an 85-cent ride, and that ride was good.
What ride was that?
A Payday 2, baby.
Are you lying?
I'm lying. It was terrible. Yeah. So, Payday 2, I was playing the game. I honestly, I knew Payday 2 was a game. That's pretty much all I knew about it. I knew you did heists. I knew there was a multiplayer component. I knew it had a recent Switch port. I didn't realize how old of a game it was. It actually came out in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so when I was playing it, I went in with the expectation. I didn't expect a 2020 game, but I went in with certain expectations, and I don't feel like they were met. It very much felt like an Xbox 360 game, and that's because it came out on the Xbox 360. So you ran into things like, you were in a small arena, you had very, for lack of a better word, dumb AI in the enemies. You ran into invisible walls, there was no exploration. There was no enemy variety. You just had these unlimited waves of bad guys coming at you. When you were trying to do a heist, you had seemingly unlimited ammo, and so you would just, shoot your pistol at them, and then they would die in 3 shots, and that was it. And you couldn't pick up any other weapons or shields or items. There was no cover system, limited interactions with the environment. And so, if anything, what I would say about it is that it really made you appreciate how far games have come in 7 years, because you don't think about it. You have all these complaints about current gen games, and I'm definitely guilty of that. But then you go back and play something like that, and it really makes you appreciate all the developments that we have had. And so that's kind of all I have to say about Payday 2, because it wasn't great, but I had fun playing it because I was playing it with my friend, and we got to complain about it together. But at the same time, I don't think it's something I would go back and replay.
So you wouldn't pay another 85 cents?
No, I don't think I would.
Yeah. Give me back my money.
Yeah.
So,
what about you, Karch? What have you been playing, my friend?
I tried to dip my toe back into that Bravely Default 2 demo, but it's stupid hard. Like too hard. And not in a fun way. So I talked about it last week, and as I mentioned, it's a turn-based JRPG with job class system. So you have a very limited number of jobs right now too in the demo. I think there's only 5 or 6. And all my characters are maxed out in one job. So normally in any game where that's a thing, if I did that with my characters, I would expect to be pretty prepared for the final encounter.
Yeah.
But I was not. Like I said, I got my teeth kicked in, and as I was playing, I was still having a really hard time with the enemies in the little fortress area I was in, so it's pretty clear I was going to have to go back and just grind out. And it's fine, but for a demo, I'm not doing that. And especially,
how many hours did you put into that demo altogether-ish?
Oh, probably not even 2. But
okay.
It's not even a matter of time. I mean, it would have been way more. I probably would have ended up putting in a total of 4, because there's a boss, and there's actually 2 secret bosses, which the first demo did. I just don't remember it being that hard. They made this really, really hard, and I think it was just a smidge too hard for a demo. even if you're trying to like kind of gauge and tweak from there. I don't think it was a smart move, at least from my perspective. I'll still get the game. I already know I'm going to get the game. I would have gotten it without the demo.
Why are you getting it if this is proven to be so difficult? Like, do you think the rest of the game will be a little easier, or what do you think?
They said that they did it on purpose. They raised the difficulty on purpose for the demo only, so they could really make sure that the final product is balanced, because especially in these games with jobs where you can mix and match abilities, and people have already done it. I haven't looked into specific ways, but there are ways to just break the game like pretty easily. And in a single player game, that's not a big deal, but at the same time, you don't want people accidentally stumbling on God mode, you know? Like, it's not necessarily something you want to make them work for it. And sometimes that is a little bit of grinding, and sometimes that is a little bit of strategy or thinking ahead and looking at, oh, I've got all these jobs and these abilities. Let me just mix and match them here. Ooh, boom. That one's going to take care of this encounter, and I'm going to feel cool because I figured it out. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So, almost like a little bit of as weird as it is to say, like a puzzle element. Because it's like, rock, paper, scissors sort of.
Right. I mean, like with a Pokemon, it's as simple as rock, paper, scissors. But with a better JRPG, it's always a choice of, if you have a loadout, so to speak, like a job or weapons or something, it's always a choice of, what do I do in this moment to overcome this one encounter versus what I do when I want to overcome most encounters. It's a convenience versus effectiveness thing. And of course, how far can you get without doing too much grinding? There's a lot of people out there who play like low level runs of various games because they want to see how low of a level they can get through when a game is based around your strength being your level. So, yeah. But like I said, too hard. I'm just not going to bother with it because I've got Animal Crossing and bed sheets to make and eggs to make. I am not having fun with the Easter Bunny stuff that they're doing right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's cute, but it's too cute. Like, so basically, the Easter Bunny came. His name is Zipper, and he looks really creepy. I don't like it. I'm glad he left because he won't come back until Easter.
Thank goodness.
He's like, I hid eggs everywhere because he looks like a pumpkin. And then you have to go get eggs all over the place. They're in trees, they're in the ground, they're in the rocks. They're the fish that you normally fish up turn out to be eggs instead of fish. And that's kind of annoying because fish is a big way to get money in the game if you're not cheating. And so there's just eggs everywhere. And the stuff you make with the eggs are really underwhelming. Like, it's like, oh, here's this dumb egg outfit that I'm never going to wear. Here's this dumb egg table that I'm never going to use. But there's this dumb little promise at the end where it's like, if you make all the things, I'll give you a really cool thing. I'm like, well, maybe that'll be cool. And it's got Rachel mad because she's not used to games for the most part, especially this kind of like pseudo game as a service, live service thing that they're doing where it's like limited time event. She's like, ugh. She's just mad at it because she doesn't understand how these things work. And I'm mad at it too because it's poorly implemented in my opinion, but I'm not the only one with that opinion. A lot of people don't like the eggs. They actually let a patch out just 2 days ago where they're like, okay, we decreased the amount of eggs that appear so people don't get but it'll be over soon.
Sorry, everybody. Zipper got a little carried away.
Simmer down, Zipper. But it'll be gone soon. So whether we loved it or hate it, Nintendo's been really there was a bug where like this bad thing would happen. I won't get into the details, but they fixed it. Nintendo is never that responsive. I'm told that the Splatoon team is working on like maintenance for Animal Crossing at the moment, and the Splatoon team is got a really good reputation for being really responsive and good at listening to player feedback. So that bodes really well for a game that has still a lot of flaws. Like, you can't craft more than one thing at a time, and a lot of things need to be crafted in multiple sets. And so you're just click in the menu, build the thing, click out of the menu, click in the menu, build the thing over and over and over again. A lot of goofy quality of life stuff that doesn't add to immersion. It only adds to complications and annoyance. And so I really hope they fix those in the coming months, but we'll see.
Well, so what does Juliet think about the Easter Bunny deals, the timed event?
She loves everything about it.
See, I think that's probably their target audience, to be honest with you.
Maybe. But, you know, you got 3 people playing in this house, 2 of us adults, 30, and we are certainly not the only kind of person playing this game. It's just like, I can tell already that when the Christmas event comes around, for instance, I'm going to love every minute of that. They just chose a weird aesthetic and a weird way to go about it. but I won't have the same problem when everything is candy canes. You know, I
Mhm.
like Christmas better than I like colored eggs. I think they just got really lazy with the designs. Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving even have way more. Easter is a religious holiday that they were just never able to properly commercialize, in my opinion. They tried, and they did okay with Easter egg hunts and candy, but that's as far as good as they'll ever get. They can't really get much better than that, and that's only so entertaining as an adult.
Sure. And the best thing about Easter, like beyond the meaning of it, it's Cadbury eggs.
I hate them. So
you hate them?
Eh.
Get out of here. Oh my gosh. You do like the caramel Cadbury eggs?
Yes, I don't like the traditional ones that actually look like egg yolks.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. I'm talking about the little tiny little eggs that are just a little bit bigger than, like, say, peanut M&Ms, but they have this chalky candy shell, and then on the inside is just this delicious solid chocolate.
Oh, that's totally different.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I like that.
That's what's up.
Ooh, man. Oh, man. I can't go to the store and pick up my favorite Easter candy.
I did that already.
What'd you get?
Those Cadbury eggs, and then Reese's eggs, and then those little foil wrapped chocolate. Like, I've heard them called rabbit pellets. I don't know what they're really called, but they're little chocolate eggs, solid chocolate, like Hershey.
Sounds tasty.
Yeah.
All right. What else have you been playing, Jason?
So I'll run through some stuff here. One thing for obviously everybody's quarantined, and so everybody's like wanting to do these virtual meetups and stuff. Well, something I did with Tyler and his fiance Katie on Saturdays, like Lauren, my wife, and I actually played Jackbox Party Pack via Steam Remote Play, which is really cool.
Hey. Thanks for the invite, jerk.
Well, it was pretty late on Saturday.
Probably asleep because we're old.
Yeah, well, and he's in Mountain Time or something. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was probably way too late.
Yeah, it was really late. I think we started at like 11. But anyway, my point is we got on Google Video Chat, and then like he hosted it, and he did a Steam Remote Play session. And so we could see his screen, and we logged in our phones, and we played Jackbox Party Pack. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's just this pack of kind of party games. And so they're basically board games that have been digitized. So they have one called, I can't remember what it's called, Quiplash, which is basically apples to apples. And they're really fun implementations. And you go into the lobby of the game, and there's a website, jackbox.tv. And then when you get in there, you put in the code to that game. So it might just a randomly generated thing. And so everybody enters the same game, and then you start playing these little kind of fun board games together where you might have to draw something on your phone, or, enter answers to questions or some stuff like that. And anyway, it's really fun. Everyone can play. It's one of those games where it's fun because even if you're not winning, like, it's still hilarious to play. And it's very contingent, or it's like very much tied to the group of people that you're with, how much fun you're going to have with it. But if anyone's quarantined and they want something to do with their friends, I highly recommend these, especially if you can get them under $20. They have been on sale the past week or so. So if you can still find those on sale, I would go with probably Jackbox Party Pack 3 or 5 are some of my favorites. Because 3 has Quiplash 2 and that t-shirt design game and murder mystery trivia. So that's a really good one. And then 5's got some pretty good ones too. So I played that a bit on Saturday. We also, this week, Tyler and I played some Call of Duty Warzone. So I know I said I'd had some problems getting into it, which was true, but we were able to get in, and it's kind of neat. It's basically, if anyone's familiar with Fortnite, which is a battle royale, it's basically Call of Duty's version of Fortnite, except for it's Call of Duty.
But Phil Spencer canceled Fortnite when he bought Epic.
That's true. Fortnite is canceled permanently. It's over because of the coronavirus. So you guys hop on this game. But the thing I liked about this better than Fortnite or even Apex Legends is that I've played a lot of Call of Duty games. Like, I'm not good at them, but I've played a lot of them. And I'm used to the movement. I'm used to the weapons. I'm used to what it feels like to shoot a gun. I'm used to all of the things that you love about Call of Duty. That's what this game is. And the other cool thing about it is this game wants you to encounter people. I feel like in Fortnite and even to an extent in Apex, when I drop, I'm just like scavenging the buildings on the land, just hoping I can even find the lowest rank pistol. And in this game, I immediately dropped in and I find like an AK-47, and then I see this helicopter over, and I'm trying to shoot down this helicopter, and then a guy parachutes out of the helicopter and shoots Tyler, and then I think I kill that guy, and I go over to revive Tyler, and then I get killed, and it's just like, oh, action-packed awesomeness. So yeah, I mean, finding weapons is a lot easier. And the other cool thing that they implemented is that once you die, you don't just go into like a follow mode where you're following other players. You actually get a chance at redemption, which is cool. So they call it a gulag, and you go into this little tiny, you go into this little tiny arena, and you do a 1v1 deathmatch with somebody else who just died. You don't know who you're gonna get. You start out with just your bare fists, and you're in a tiny, it's probably like a 50 by 50 foot little tiny arena with obstacles in there, and there are pistols and hand grenades, and you go in, and whoever wins that gulag gets to redrop back into the game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really neat. And then the other thing is, even if you lose the gulag, when I hope I'm saying that right, because I'm saying it an awful lot, but even if you lose and let's say your partner did not die, they have the chance to buy you back into the game. And so there is currency in the game that you find throughout the map, and then there's these spots where you can buy upgrades to your weapons. And if you find one of those crates or whatever, you can buy your partner back into the game. So I just thought that was really cool. It's like a really neat implementation.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm really bad at battle royale games in general, although I've only ever played Fortnite and Apex, but my biggest complaint with them is this one sounds great because especially the additional ways to get back into it. Because I don't mind losing in a game. I'm bad at it. That's fine. But even as quick as it is, getting into another match of however many people, I don't know. What's the cap on Warzone?
Geez. I thought it was 100, but I don't quote me on that.
We'll say 100. For Fortnite's 100. But the point is, and maybe things have changed since I first tried playing these other ones, but it still took too long. For someone who does die as often as I do, I want to get back into the next match a lot quicker than I was. And it was a hassle, and so I've never really gotten into it because I learn by doing, but doing takes way too much time, so I'm never going to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the great thing about getting in on these when they're building popularity is you can fill games so quickly.
True.
So I don't know. I didn't find that to be a huge problem outside of the technical issues that we were having with it. But in terms of like when you get into a game and when you can play the game, it was fun. I did have a couple of notes on complaints, and I'll just go through them very quickly. This is just a general complaint with modern games, but tutorials they really annoy me because
I hate them so much.
I know I don't need you to show me how to walk and pick up a weapon and shoot a weapon. It's the same in every single game.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who do not play these games. They are 100% necessary if you want to bring in a very key demographic of people who like, hey, come play this game with me, friend who hasn't played a game in a long time. And it's
Make it optional.
Yes.
It's really simple.
Optional. It shouldn't be that hard to skip tutorials, Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the other thing is I don't typically need a tutorial, but then also I'm relying on you to use some normal conventions. So like for instance, for whatever reason, F is the pickup key to pick items up, and in every other game that you ever play, it's E.
Should be.
So
E.
I don't know why on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why they chose F. E doesn't do anything.
Because F you, man.
I could probably change that mapping, but I'd rather just complain about it. And then there was no like cover shooting system, or there was cover, but you can't like lean in and out. It was a little strange. But whatever. I mean, those are really nitpicky. I had fun with it.
Can you normally cover in Call of Duty?
Honestly, I haven't played a Call of Duty game since Modern Warfare 2, so I don't know.
Well, basically my thought on that is if you can normally cover in Call of Duty, then whatever. But if you can't, then that's how it is. But I don't know. I don't play them.
It's probably how it is. And then, Karch, did you play anything else this week? Because if you didn't, then I do have one other thing I wanted to talk about.
Magic, nothing to talk about there, though, except that I'm not as good as I thought I was. So I ended up stealing it. Not stealing, but like I copied a deck and just built that, and I've been using that and doing okay with it. And then I played Rime, actually, for like 30 minutes.
Did you say Brime or Rime?
Rime, R-I-M-E.
Okay, yeah.
So it was kind of fun. It's a puzzle game for the most part, logic puzzles, that kind of stuff, and very, very similar to how we talked about earlier, Last Ember, that kind of style where there's like there's an atmosphere and a story, but it's being told in a very like non-traditional way. I only played 30 minutes of it. I probably won't go back to it. Like the world is actually quite large. The space they let you walk around in, but they only ever want you to go to one place at a time. So I didn't care for, and then you travel very slowly. And so all three of those things combined, I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I don't know. If I'm bored, I might pick it up again.
That's cool. What's the premise of the game? Like,
you're this young lad in some sort of looking, like old timey Greek Roman attire. You wash up on a beach. That's it. And then like you're just running around. There's this spirit thing. Eventually you unlock this fox spirit he's leading you around. I honestly don't know what, if there's any story or whatever. If there's a story, what it's going to be. It's on Game Pass right now, though. PC, if you want to check it out.
Yeah, sweet. Well, I played about 3 more hours of Half-Life Alyx, so I'm almost 6 hours into this. I'm still really enjoying it. I definitely plan on seeing it through. I will say it has been hard to get myself to play for more than 1 hour at a time. So I've had 3 separate sessions, but I max out at like an hour, and it's not a nausea thing. It's nothing like that. It's just, I get tired. It's always the end of the day. It's always after Luke goes to sleep. I've always had a whole day of working and all the other obligations and the playing and the swinging and the walking and the picking a 3-year-old up who thinks he's a little baby, but he actually weighs close to 40 pounds. Carrying him around the house. So like, I'm tired at the end of the day, and it's just hard to make myself play this for more than an hour, even with as much fun as I'm having with it. A couple things to note. The vertical puzzle elements that they're getting into are really cool, even without continuous motion. So it's kind of interesting the way they make you navigate through these maps. And I do not want to say the word Metroidvania. It's not a Metroidvania, but it very much is a very small scaled down, like you're in this 4 or 5 story building and you have to go all the way up to a place, and then you find out you need something back at the bottom, and you have to go back down to the bottom, and then you navigate your way through this different kind of ways, and there are some puzzle elements in there to get you from room to room. So like that's really cool because it's not combat, and it's just nice to not have to be totally on edge. The little head crabs are tanks. They take pretty much an entire clip of any weapon to kill, and that kind of bothers me. I wish, and especially with as selfish as the game is with ammo, I did find that you do unlock a new weapon at some point in the game, and they do seem to be getting a little bit more generous with ammo, especially right before big encounters. So if you ever start finding a lot of ammo in that game, brace yourself. The battles are awesome, though. I've encountered a couple of mini bosses, and again, I don't want to go into spoilers, but there's a mini boss battle in the hotel that's very, very fun, very cool, very high intensity, but I don't think it's too hard because I think I only died one time before, and then I beat it the second try. So anyway, I'm sure if you're interested in Half-Life Alyx, you've probably already beat it and you're further into it than I am, but I'm still really enjoying my time with it. So that's all I had. I played a lot this week.
Yeah, you did. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you. That's like a record week for me.
Yeah. It's a record low for me. That's not true. I played a lot, just not anything worth talking about. Like I said, it was mostly Animal Crossing and phone games and Magic. But speaking of Half-Life Alyx and what I wish I was playing Half-Life Alyx. Between you talking about it and I've finally got around to listening to a couple other people's reviews and impressions and stuff, I'm like, man, that game sounds really fun. But obviously that's not happening anytime soon. So I might consider moving on to like finally playing the original Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Episode 2, etc. sometime, so that when I eventually come to visit, I can play Alyx.
Totally. I will plug you into VR and just like be your spirit guide, and just like you leave the headset on and I'll feed you like chips and stuff. I'll give you drinks of water and coffee to keep you going.
I need the chips in my mouth.
I'll baby bird it to you if you need me to.
It's so funny when you were talking about being so tired. It's like, oh man, I wish, and carrying Luke around. I was like, I wish I could carry you through your VR experience.
I would let you do it.
You put the headset and hold the paddles or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I got him. And we'll this way.
Put the team on my back. I would. I've honestly considered just wheeling my computer desk chair into the middle of the floor and sitting down and playing the rest of the game, because I'm like, I want to play it longer, but I just can't. But I do feel like it would kind of ruin the experience to be sitting while I do it.
Sure. I'm just worried that even with how much fun you're having, you're now 6 sessions in. That sounds like about halfway, maybe just a little less than, or a little over halfway.
Yeah, it's about halfway.
So, like, we're looking at another 2 months at this rate, which is fine. But like, eventually you're gonna be like, I don't want to play it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but you have to, so I know how good it is at the end.
Well, I'm gonna start picking up the pace, because one thing I've found as I'm going through it kind of slowly, and I've been fairly meticulous going through the rooms and exploring and like opening every drawer and opening every cabinet and lifting every box. What I've found is that that's not super rewarding. They put the ammo and the health packs and the resin, which is the currency for upgrading your weapons, in pretty obvious places. So I can go through it a little bit faster and be fairly certain that I'm not missing anything huge.
Cool.
So I'm hoping that helps me pick up the pace.
Yeah, just forget all that stuff. Who needs world building and immersion?
No, that's dumb.
It's dumb.
Who needs environments? Who needs environmental storytelling?
A white plane and a stick figure.
Yeah, or just, a window and a VR marker.
Perfect.
Right. So yeah, for me, what I wish I was playing is just anything flat. I don't have an alternative game right now. Like usually when I have a VR game, I have something else going too that I'll be playing on PS4 or on my console, or sorry, on my PC that I can stream to my laptop. I don't have a game like that right now, and so anything flat would be great, because I'm just tired of standing. That's my next thing.
Play Children of Morta.
I looked into that. I watched the trailer. I don't think the combat gripped me. Like, Dead Cells is super fast paced, and
just play it. It's free.
I know. I might.
PC too. If you want to play it on Game Pass, you can, or you can play it on my. We can share it via Switch. Either way.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
See.
I can't with you. I'm shaking my fists right now, listeners. Shaking my fists.
Do you think one day we'll get webcams and we'll record ourselves, like the video of us?
I had a webcam this whole time. I didn't even know it.
Really? You have a webcam?
Looking at the box right now. Rachel got it actually. So.
Oh, is it 1080p?
Please. Please was to indicate no, not it. I'm looking at the box. I'm leaning over. It says 720 and 30 FPS. So.
That's fine. That'd be fine for this.
Garbage would be fine for this, man.
Get out of here. We got high expectations here at Never Free to Play.
We have such high expectations. A couple more games I want to play. All of them. There's crazy amounts of sales going on right now. PlayStation, probably Xbox, Steam, definitely. Even Nintendo's getting in on it. Everything's on sale. My wish list has a lot of stuff marked down, and I'm like, oh man, this is terrible timing, because Final Fantasy VII is coming out, and then Xenoblade's the next month. So, but I'm looking at everything, wishing I could finally tick it off my wish list and give it a go, but unfortunately I can't. I want to shout out Snaky Bus, this goofy looking indie game where you play a bus who has to pick people up in the city, but you don't seem to be beholden to the rules and laws of physics. So as you pick people up, like the bus gets bigger for some reason, and it's basically, everybody remembers the game Snake on old phones and stuff. It's that in a 3D environment, but you're a bus instead, and so the bus keeps getting bigger and bigger to the point where you're just kind of like snaking around the city like some sort of bus dragon, and it looked really silly and really fun. So if you're looking at that and it looks charming and reasonably priced, I would check it out because I wish I could. And then
Tastemaker, baby.
Tastemaker. And finally, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. It's a One Piece Muso. A Muso is like a Dynasty Warrior style game where you basically just run in as this big powerful guy and you just wail on like armies and armies of mooks who can't do anything to you for the most part. And they're usually led by a slightly stronger unit that you fight at the end of the match, or at the end of the...
It's like a ultimate hack and slash, kind of.
Oh yeah, you just smash that button. I mean, there's more to it than that, but there's not a lot more to it. And I've never actually played any of the One Piece ones. I did Hyrule Warriors like a couple years ago on the Switch, and I actually had a lot of fun with that. The important thing about Muso is, I mean, some people just hate them in general, so if you don't like them, you don't like them. But the important thing is, because there's so many different kinds, especially these days with all the licensed ones like One Piece or Fire Emblem or Legend of Zelda, find the one with the theme that you like and play that. But I just want to get in as Luffy and wail on pirates with my rubber arms. But again, that's not happening anytime soon.
What is One Piece?
One Piece is an anime / manga that's been going on for over 20 years now.
Okay. Well, one day you'll have to tell me what manga is, but it doesn't have to be today.
Manga is the Japanese comic books.
I thought that was anime.
No, anime is what you watch on like a TV. It's like
I gotcha.
Anyway.
Well, that was a faster explanation than I anticipated.
Yeah, it's simple. Anybody can understand.
Okay. Great. Even me.
Even you. All right, so we've been running long because we had all that extra fun news to go through. So we're going to dive into our favorite listeners' question of the week, and then we're going to call it a day. Jason, go ahead and read Sean's question.
All right. It was the morning when he sent it. So he says, "Morning, fellas. Got my weekly question. So looking back, I feel like the PS3 and early PS4 era... Sorry, I'm mixing up my words here. I feel like the defining genre was the first-person shooter. The late PS4 era to now has really been defined by open-world games, to the point where games like the Witcher series went open-world. Where do you see that shift going forward? Even Nintendo has gone down this route a bit. Also, if my questions get ridiculous, feel free to ignore me. Take care, Sean. Sean, we will never ignore you. You write in anytime, and I promise you we will read your question."
Sean, you're keeping the lights on, man.
Yeah.
We don't have the privilege or luxury to ignore you. All right, so I'll go first. I just wrote down my thoughts here. We'll go from there, though. Open world is more defining to me than being like... than being just a genre. Like, it became a mechanic more than a genre. Like, open world is a genre, so to speak, but it was really more just an evolution of games. Like, as games got out of 2D planes from left to right into 3D, and then from there, you had games like, Mario 64, where you're walking around a castle, but then you'd go into very specific levels and whatever. And then finally you had they called them sandbox back then, but that's just what open world was before we started calling it open world, because it was a sandbox that you just ran around and played in. And now it's just a thing games are expected of. If you're not a very specific genre or niche, what do we say here? Niche.
I don't know.
If you're not a very specific niche or genre, you are an open world by default. That's just how games are built these days. And for a while, that was really irritating because it felt shoehorned, and it felt like people had to do that, and it bloated games, it bloated development time, and it just wasn't always very fun. I feel like they've either shifted away from that. They're like, okay, we know what we're about, and open world isn't that, so they don't do it. Or if they're going to do open world, they put the time in. The Witcher raised the bar when it came out, for sure. Not that there weren't games that were doing it right, but The Witcher raised the bar, and you started seeing like just everybody was doing their best. It didn't always land, but they were putting in decent effort into making an open world game pretty fun. But the short answer is that open world is not going anywhere because, again, it's not just a genre or style of play, and platformers aren't going to just take the world by storm all of a sudden and override open world games.
Tell that to Celeste.
Celeste is great, man.
Yeah, it is.
But a Celeste open world? That would be
no.
Don't do that. As for what's coming up next, I can't really imagine what doesn't exist yet, but as far as like where we're heading, as far as, generational defining, we're kind of already there. We saw a lot of it in this one, especially the second half of this generation, the PS4, Xbox One X, and that's your live service and games as a service things like Fortnite and Destiny. Now, of course, Fortnite and Destiny are very different types of games, but they're all predicated on this idea that you're in the game and you're staying in the game. Everybody has a World of Warcraft now. Back in the day, World of Warcraft was this weird thing. All MMOs, for the most part, were this weird thing that some people played, and that was the only thing they played. Console gaming finally figured it out this generation, and then will continue to do so in the next generation as they try to find their own personal Fortnite or their own personal Destiny. Now, a lot of people have tried to do that, and they're kind of coming up with mixed results. So they're finding that they have to cater to a very specific thing and iterate in a very unique way. But they're never going to beat things like Fortnite. They're never going to beat things like Destiny, which is kind of on the rocks right now. I know people are feeling real iffy about that, fans. And, obviously Anthem blew up in EA's face when it sold really well at the gate, but then failed to retain any of those purchases as players. And then Division 2 is just kind of floating around out there somewhere, neither really great, but not really bad either. But
and same with that Bethesda Fallout.
Oh my gosh, that game! I haven't heard anything bad lately, but I haven't heard anything good from it either.
Ever.
Yeah, ever for that matter. But that's the future. The future is those kind. I think the first announced PS5 game is from Gearbox, who does Borderlands. They're making some sort of, they call it a looter shooter, except it's not going to be a shooter. It's going to be your knights with swords and stuff. So it's going to be some kind of loot-based game that's going to have you coming back for seasonal events and updates and DLCs, but they want you to stay there forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is how many of these games as a service, persistent world, always coming back for event games, can the market sustain? That's a question that I know has been posed a lot that I don't know that we got an answer to it this generation, but I feel like that's going to come to a head next gen because a lot of developers are catching on to this. And then even within one publisher like Ubisoft, you see they have several of these types of games. So they have the Division 2, and they have, what's that samurai one?
For Honor?
Yeah, they have For Honor. They have the Rainbow Six Siege. They have not so much Far Cry 5, but the Wildlands. Mm-hmm. So they have and that's just one publisher.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the other publishers that have this. But I almost hate to agree with you, but I'm just too cynical not to, because I think games as a service is the easiest way for these companies to squeeze every drop of monetization that they can out of a single game. And so I know every publisher is chasing the success of Fortnite, and they're pushing out similar games. And you see that with Apex Legend and Call of Duty Warzone, everyone putting out their Battle Royale. I think even GTA 5 had a Battle Royale mode. One thing that I did think that was kind of interesting that Activision did with Call of Duty is that Call of Duty Warzone is a free mode, but it actually dovetails into a $60 game. So I wonder if we'll see that a little bit of play with those monetization strategies. But even still, all that being said, if you look at the biggest releases for 2020, we're talking Animal Crossing, Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk 2077. Those are all single-player, story-driven games. Maybe not so much Animal Crossing, but you see what I'm saying is I think there's still a place in the market for those, and I think and I hope that every publisher will continue to keep that as part of their catalog moving forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. This wasn't to say that those kinds of games are going away or
No.
less popular than ever. The absolute opposite is true. And this is going to be a banger of a year, especially on things we don't know. I mean, hopefully a lot of stuff that was planned to come out, like, you know, in the fall and winter does still get to come out. I know a lot of stuff's going to get canceled or delayed indefinitely, like The Last of Us Part 2. Like, I mean, who knows when that's coming out, honestly. But, you know, at least we got Final Fantasy VII Remake. Woo!
Woo! We can make plenty of time to play it, too.
Yeah. But, no, those games aren't going anywhere. But it just, those are, you know, what you consider traditional games, and they're pushing the art form and the medium forward in their own way, but they're not defining anything, because it can't define. They're just never going to be as lucrative as those other ones, because his previous example of his being Sean about FPS was multiplayer. It was the beginning of all of this, and how easy it was now that online was just this baked in thing at the beginning of the generation, and just how big the numbers were when you just started adding a multiplayer component. And most of those multiplayer games were first person shooters, but anything and everything that could was trying to create a multiplayer component, often to the detriment of that component. Like, it was this half baked idea, sometimes handed off to a completely different development studio who didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
And so it suffered for it. But, you know, it is interesting. You said, is there room for a bunch? I think and you said we didn't get that answer. I think we did, in the sense that I think there's more room. Like, I think Anthem could have existed in a world with Destiny and Division 2. I think it was just that bad. I think it was handled that poorly that nobody could play it.
We did learn that from the Jason Schreier piece over at Kotaku, that how kind of plagued that development cycle for that game was, and how they kept getting jerked around on what the game even was. I think at its core, you're right. It could have been a cool game. Like, people seem to like the flying, people seem to like the combat, and unfortunately, that's just where everybody's enjoyment of the game started and ended.
Right.
But it is kind of interesting, like you mentioned, how first-person shooters, the drive to that was really the multiplayer component of it, and I tend to agree with you. But it is interesting as we go through the to the end of this generation, you see this dichotomy between publishers either chasing monetization or pushing the art form forward.
Yeah.
Because you get these games like I mentioned, all the slew of the games as a service games that are out there. But then you also have games like Death Stranding that people will push out. And obviously that was a big AAA title, and Sony kind of took a chance on that one. I think it paid off for them, because I don't know how well that game sold, but it was very critically acclaimed. And so it's just kind of interesting to see all the different things that are going on with the medium right now.
Very. I will say one last thing that's kind of like a combination of the two thoughts we had on either side of this fence, is that I'll bring up Avengers, the Avengers game that's coming out by Crystal Dynamics, published by Square Enix. And it's this interesting take on, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to take one of the hottest properties in media right now, and they want to make a really compelling story-based single-player game. But they also want a multiplayer component that acts as this live service, keep you coming back, dropping maps and dropping new characters. And I think it's gonna fall on its face.
Not
the same way that Anthem did, maybe a little bit. Anthem being plagued in just development problems and not having focused vision for, you know, a large part of its life cycle. But I think it's just going to try to be all three of those things. Again, a successor to the unbelievably, you know, well-received Marvel Cinematic Universe. Already a huge ask. Like, you have to be as good as that. Otherwise, people are going to automatically hate it. And they already do. They don't like the way that the characters look, because they don't look like the actors, which I appreciate that they didn't do that. But at the same time, I'm also that way. I'm like, oh, but they don't look like the actors.
Right. It looks weird.
It really does look weird. It's very uncanny valley. And the little gameplay I've seen, because they don't have a lot yet, it looks really boring. like really, really boring. So like that already bodes poorly for the single player aspect. And then finally the multiplayer component. It's like, are people going to want to, like, I don't do multiplayer that often, and I certainly don't do live service games for more than, maybe a month or two at the most. And like, so you're not going to get me. Like, I'm not coming back when you add Doctor Doom. It's just not happening.
Karch ain't gonna get got.
Nope. I can't be fooled. But I think that's a weird attempt to do everything at once, and I don't think it's going to work out for him.
No, it's I really don't. I think there's, unfortunately, like that game, unless it comes out and really surprises people, I honestly think its fate's already sealed, unfortunately.
Which is
I might eat my words, but
I hope you do, because words are delicious and I'm hungry. But I really wish it was a single player. I want a game as good as God of War, but with an Avengers coat of paint on it. That sounds so cool. Because of what Endgame was and how like satisfying all of that was. It would be fun to jump in and be all those characters in a meaningful way, though, not just because otherwise I'm playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 with better graphics, but not even as good because there's fewer characters. So it's like, what's the point?
Well, and that's another thing, and it's a totally different component, and it's kind of changing the subject a little bit, but how can you be that intentional with character design when you have to focus on that many characters? I suppose if you have the resources, anything is possible, but I know that Sony Santa Monica put a lot of care into how Kratos would move and how his combat was, how his axe felt and how his axe looked. And it's just like, you would have to do that for every single one of these characters for the game to be that good. Or you focus on one.
Yeah, that's a really good point, too, about the Kratos thing and the focus, is because as stellar as that game is, and it is easily one of my top 3 games of all time, it does suffer from, it's just Kratos, and it's just Atreus, and that's about it. Like, it's them and a couple other, like, NPCs, and otherwise the world is just the environment and the enemies. And because of that focus, hopefully this is just, okay, we got it out of the way and we know what we want to do for the next game, so we can do a little bit more. But it is a weird trade-off. Not a weird trade-off, but it is a trade-off. And and personally, I always prefer focus on this thing, and then I have me wanting more from it than failing to deliver on anything meaningful.
Which unfortunately I think is where this Avengers game is gonna land.
If it even lands this year.
Oh, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if everything got pushed.
2020 is canceled. We'll see.
Cyberpunk got delayed till 2077.
The virus finally dies. No, speaking of 2021, E3 isn't going to do a digital thing. This is just a stupid aside at the end, but they did actually announce their dates for 2021. So they're still planning to be there in their usual stadium, or not stadium, but usual
venue.
Yeah, venue. So we'll see.
That was really smart on their part, because a lot of people have been speculating they're going to go away. So that was really, really good marketing on their part to do that. Good PR move.
Yep. All right. I think that wraps it up. We went short last week, and we certainly went long this week.
We made it up.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Well, you know what time it is, my friend.
My favorite time of the day.
Yeah, my favorite time of the day, too. Let's see who is the worst.
Is it Jason? Is it Karch? But it's Greg. It's always Greg.
You answered!
Yes, at work, but I am.
You're on the pod, my friend.
What's up?
She's too bad
at work, especially.
Yeah. So you win this week. You are not the worst. Let me ask you, when are you going to get this bad boy edited if I give it to you tonight?
So before the end of tomorrow night.
Okay, so Karch and I will post Thursday morning.
Yeah, don't you guys have to go to, like, work or something? How are you up?
Work is for squares.
We love our crap, Greg.
Especially right now, right?
Yeah, working from home, dude. That's the thing. When we go back to working at work, I don't know what's going to happen to this podcast, but we'll just kind of find out, I suppose.
If it ever happens. That's the real answer.
Right. Well, all right. I don't want to keep you because you're at work, but thank you for answering the call here, and congratulations on not being the worst.
All right, man. Peace out.
All right, later. Wow, that was really surprising.
Yeah, we need to turn this into a game. When he answers, something bad has to happen to us.
Like what?
I don't know. We'll figure out our own punishment, but basically we'll create like almost like a bet. Like, will Greg pick up this week? If not, something, and then we have to do the thing. And then report.
Yes.
I don't know what that is yet. We'll brainstorm it.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Well, cool. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for this week. Please go check us out at neverfreetoplay.com or patreon.com/neverfreetoplay. Follow us on Twitter. We are at neverfreetoplay. Hope you guys all have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play. Sweet. I was going to give you crap for interrupting my sign-off, because this would have been like the fourth week in a row, but you didn't do it, and
Did
that's
I
me.
interrupt it that often?
Go back and listen.
I know I did the last week, but
And
that was
the week before.
There were probably good reasons, though.
Yeah, there were probably great reasons.
What were you going to do?
I was just going to sign off.
No, you were going to give me crap. What were you going to do?
Oh, I was just going to be like, look at Karch interrupting my sign-off every week. That's all.
They need to hear from me one last time.
Yeah, that's what it is. The audience craves it.
Thank you.
Cool.
Here you go, Sean. Have fun.